In this video, we'll be looking at how to convert between fractions, decimals, and percentages, and check out some shortcuts that will help us complete this task more easily. Here, we're looking at values that are less than 1, such as proper fractions, decimals less than 1, and percentages less than 100%. But these processes can be applied to all percentages, fractions, and decimals. These are 3 ways to display values that are equivalent but written in different forms. Let's take this example of a fraction of 5/8. Firstly, we'll move clockwise around this triangle to convert this into a decimal, then a percentage, and back into a fraction. So to move from 5/8 to a decimal, we're going to divide the 5 by 8. So we'll put the 5 underneath the bus stop and we'll have the 8 outside. Notice I put the decimal point after the 5 and I've also written it above the bus stop as well. How many 8s go into 5? Well, 0, which will leave us with a remainder of 5. So we'll cross the 5 out and move it over. We'll fill that place value with a 0. How many 8s go into 50 is 6, which would make 48. So we'd have a remainder of 2, which we'll write here. We'll now put another 0 in. How many 8s in 20 would be 2? 2 8s is 16. So if we take that away, we get a remainder of 4. And then how many 8s go into 40 would be 5. So we end up with the decimal of 0.625. So we now want to convert it from a decimal to a percentage. And we can do that quite simply by timesing it by 100. If we multiply 0.625 by 100, this gives us a percentage of 62.5. Now to return this percentage to a fraction, we can write the digits over 100, then simplify it using the highest common factor. However, we do have a decimal in the numerator of this fraction, and whilst this doesn't break any rules, it's easier to work without them, so we'll create an equivalent fraction over 1,000 by timesing both the top and bottom by 10. We can now simplify this by dividing the top and bottom by the highest common factor, which in this case is 125. If you don't know what the highest common factor is, you can divide it by 5, and then by 5, and then by 5 again, and you'll get the final answer, which is going to be 5/8. And this brings us back to 5/8. Let's look at doing this in the opposite direction and see what we'd do if we wanted to convert 5/8 into a percentage. Instead of going through make it into a decimal first and then timesing it by 100, we can simply make it an equivalent fraction over 100. So to convert it from a fraction of 5/8 into a percentage, we're going to write 5/8 here, and we're going to convert it into a fraction over 100. Now we need to times it by something that's going to make it 100, so what we'll do is we'll divide 100 by 8. We'll write the 100 underneath the bus stop and put the 8 outside. How many 8s go into 1 would be 0. So I transfer that over, the remainder of 1. How many 8s go into 10 would be 1, with 2 left over. How many 8s into 20 would be 2, with 4 left over. And we put the decimal place both down here and above. How many 8s into 40 would be 5. So we have the multiple of 12.5. We can now times the 8 by 12.5 to make it 100, and we can times the 5 by 12.5 to get 62.5. So this is 62.5 over 100, which we can now write as 62.5%. Now we can convert this to a decimal by dividing by 100 and getting rid of the percentage symbol. Dividing by 100 means moving the decimal 2 places to the left. So this gives us 0.625, and we need to now convert that into a fraction. To do this, we place all the digits from the first integer on the left greater than 0 over the place value of the last digit on the right. In this case, it'll be 625 over 1,000. We can simplify this by dividing both numerator and denominator by 125, which is the highest common factor of these 2 numbers. That's how you go about converting between fractions, percentages, and decimals. In the next video, we'll be looking at how to use decimals in operations and estimations. I'll see you then.